Alright, I'm putting it in. It doesn't have to go in any particular orientation, so don't worry about that. Just put it in. When you get to the spot where it stops, then what you'll do is you'll come over here and you'll tap this with this big heavy-duty hammer here. And when I mean tap, I mean tap. I don't mean beat it. I mean just like that. Nothing more than that. And after about 4 or 5 whacks, it should go in. When installing it, you'll have to compress it all the way down so that it actually goes in there. Otherwise, when you tap this, it'll just be doing this. It has to go all the way till it bottoms out before you hit this end. Now place your nut on the end of the shaft in order to protect your threads in case you miss. I haven't missed, but in order to make sure that they don't get hit, I've gone and put my nut on the end. Well, I've hit mine and it started in, and it's in all the way. The way you tell it's in is while you're pushing on it. When it actually gets in, you'll feel a thud and a clunk, and the pitch will change on the shaft. Give it a few more taps just to make sure, and then go ahead and install it into the spindle hub assembly. Remove the nut and the board that's over there that's used to hold this back. You don't need to grease this side because you don't want that grease when it gets hot to turn to a liquid and then get on your brake rotors. That would be a bad thing. With that said, let's go ahead and take this and turn it all the way so it's pointed towards the rear of the car while the shaft is all the way forward. Then you'll grab this and pick it up and then put this in the hole. You'll have to pull this out away from the vehicle and more towards the back of the vehicle while you keep this pointed towards the rear and move it and then place it in the hole in here. It's fairly easy to do that portion. You just pull out on this and pull it towards the rear until this clears the brake caliper. Once it clears the brake caliper, you can keep pulling this out and then pull it towards that, and then it'll go ahead and sit in the hole. With this part done, now what you need to do is you need to get your pry bar and pry this back down and put this stud, that's your ball joint stud, and put it in this hole. I opted to go underneath the sway bar over there, which will also work. And you can bring this down and then slide this over. Once you've got the lower ball joint stud in the hole, go ahead and put the nut on and tighten it down all the way. One of the reasons that it's hard to get it in sometimes is you forget to go ahead and make sure that the teeth are splined inside the hub here, which was my problem. Took me a little longer than usual. So let's go ahead and let's get that lower ball joint stud taken care of. If you're going along and you keep turning this and it seems like you're not getting anywhere, look below and make sure that the ball joint stud isn't moving with your nut like mine is. I had this problem when I went to take it off. It looks like I had the same problem when I'm going to put on. If that's the case, go ahead and take a jack, your hydraulic jack, and jack it up. Just make sure not to hit the grease fitting down there. You don't want to damage that. Now you should be able to turn it without it giving you any problems. As you can see, it's not turning now. After you get the ball joint nut on pretty snug and about as tight as you can get it, go ahead and put your tie rod in. And put your nut on. And give it a tighten down pretty good. Get it about as tight as you can with this, just with your hand. And then put a regular combination wrench on it, box end type. And do the double wrench portion with the 17mm as well. Now you can reef on it. This might take it, but over years of doing that, it might cause it to have some abuse. And I really don't want my nice combination ratchet wrenches to be damaged. So I only use them to put things on and off. And I use the other regular wrenches to break things free and snug them up. Again, here's the double wrench method. Again, be careful, don't slip off to the sides or you'll bust your knuckles. I don't remember what the torque spec was on it, but I usually just tighten them up pretty good. Oh, see what I mean about slipping there? There we go. That should be good. I think the torque spec was probably 45 foot-pounds or something. I think I put about 50 on it. That's good enough for me. The next thing you want to do is go ahead and clean all the grease and crap off of your rotor from when you were handling it. Easiest way to do that is to get some paper towels and some brake clean. Spray the brake clean on the paper towels. Then use the paper towels to wipe all of the rotor down. Don't forget to do the backside too. Yuck. Then go ahead and finish it off by wiping it again. If at any point you rotated this item, you might want to spray brake clean back there. I didn't really do any serious rotation, so I'm not going to worry about it. And I tried to be careful just to use fingerprints on it other than grease and oil. The next thing you want to do is put your tire on here. And some of you guys may say, well, wait a minute, what about that nut? Yeah, well, we'll do that after we get the tire on it and get the two of the lug nuts tightened down, and then we'll lower the vehicle. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Before you put the tire on, take note of where the lug nuts are. Take note of where the lug nut holes are on the tire. Make sure they're in the same position. Then sit down in front of the tires and use your hands and your knees and your elbows to lift the tire into place. I find that easy. I've been doing this for a while. Now that you got the tire in place, take note of where the valve stem is. The two nuts that you want to put on, and only two nuts, lug nuts for right now, are the two furthest away from the valve stem. The reason for that is because when you put the hubcap on, there's two blank holes for the lug nuts for the hubcap to slip over them and still have the little cutout in the hubcap for the valve stem. That's why you only put these two on for right now, because when we set it down on the ground, we're going to want those on there without the hubcap so we can put this nut on. After you get the lug nuts on, just snug them up real good. They don't have to be super tight. We'll do that after we get the car on the ground, and then we'll finish it up. Position your jack stand underneath your body bolt right here. Jack the car up, remove the jack stand, and then lower the car gently on the ground so that the tire is all the way down. Lower the car gently on the ground. Now let's put the axle nut on. First part to go on is that big thick washer. Then the nut. You can use the new one or you can use the old one if it's in good condition. The old one was in good condition, so I'm just going to put it back on. Now you need to torque that down. Take your 1/2-inch torque wrench and your 32mm deep socket and set your torque wrench to 155 foot-pounds. The spec on this in the book, remember I told you needed that book, is 180 foot-pounds. 155 foot-pounds is not too far from 180, and 25 foot-pounds difference is not a lot. So what I usually do is I just go ahead and set it up so that I have my 155, and then I go just a little bit further. I've been doing it that way for years and I've never had a problem with it. It's nice to have the wheel slightly angled out so that you can get your foot on that torque wrench, or that torque wrench easily. Hear that click? Then I put my foot on it and I do just a little bit more. I hear it for the click, and then I go maybe just a smidget more. And that should be real close to 180. Then you can go ahead and remove that. Alright, I've got the pieces here set up. Sometimes you can reuse the old one, but I opted not to on this one. As you can see right here, it started to crack. So I definitely don't want to use that on my vehicle. Sometimes you can reuse them. Sometimes you can't. First part that goes on is this little spring ring right here. What this thing does, sorry, a Skeeter's biting me in the ear over here. Let me get him. What this thing does is it keeps this little nut thing springed out so it doesn't rattle. Now you need to find a hole that lines up with the hole in there when this is on. And that looks like that'll work. I went ahead and got a brand new cotter key for the explanation I gave you earlier. Now just slide it in the hole. Now get your needle nose pliers and grab the cotter key and bend it up, both sides. Sometimes you can use this little hole in here to finish it off. Now that this is done, now you can go ahead and get your hubcap on. Remember I was talking about the valve stem relief? And then those two holes that didn't have inserts all the way around like these ones do? And then I said that the lug nuts needed to be the furthest two away. Well, there they are. So now this will go on. Now you have this in here, you have this here. Now you can put the rest of the lug nuts in and tighten them down. When you tighten these down, make sure you wiggle the hubcap every now and then to make sure that the lug nuts go through the center of the plastic and not on the edge of it on the inside here, and break it when you tighten it up. Now go ahead and tighten up all the lug nuts all the way around, as tight as you can get them by hand. That should be good enough. There's an actual torque spec. I think it's 75-80 foot-pounds on it. I usually just reef on this thing pretty good. It's a big one, and I've never had a problem with it. Now that the wheels are on the ground and the lug nuts are tightened up, now we can move the wheel chocks and check the transmission fluid. Here we go. Just give them a kick. Here's a couple of tools that I didn't show at the start of the video. One was the mat, and the other was this little pry bar thing. I use this to remove the seal. Before you go on a test drive, again, remember, don't forget to check transmission fluid, because remember, some of it dripped out. This concludes this series on how to change the CV axle on the driver's side of a 2002 Grand Caravan. This applies to many other Caravans as well. For instance, my book says it goes from 96 to 2002. Although the principles are the same for the years before it or after it, this video is specifically for the 96 to the 2002. I know again that it's been a long video series, but I like to make sure and cover all the bases for people that might use my video to actually repair their cars. I try to include all the things like tools and stuff like that. So that's why they're quite long and why I ramble a lot. I hope you appreciate the video and the time and effort it took to put this in. If you did appreciate it and it helped you, please, by all means, give me a thumbs up. If you like me doing the Caravan videos and you want to learn more about them, I do have some other ones. If you have a Caravan and needs maintenance from time to time, please subscribe. I come up with new videos every now and then on this. This is Keith Nunya, and I want to thank you for watching. And have a nice night, day, or whatever you got going on. God bless you. Good night. Bye.